So we're going to be looking at how to import a file into R. In this case, specifically a CSV file. Now the first thing that you need to do before importing anything is to set a working directory. So what we are going to do is use a folder which we have saved on our desktop. And we're going to use setwd. And this stands for set working directory. That's the function we're using. Type in the whole file path. Users, Dave, desktop, and then our analysis folder. When you run any kind of code in R, what you need to do is highlight the whole piece of code that you want run, hit Control and Enter. So we've run this piece of code now, we've set the working directory, and we want to verify that this is our working directory. So we're using getwd, which is get working directory, and it'll show us what our working directory is, and you can see that on the bottom that it's verified that it's the desktop analysis folder. So now that we have the working directory, we can start to import our data. So again, we're going to be using a CSV file. Now, when creating a data set, anything to the left of the arrow is your data set, and I generally just call it my data and then give it a number, so that you could always, when you're adding new data sets, call it data set my data 2, my data 3. The function that we're going to use here is read.csv, since this is a CSV file again. We're going to type in the name of the file itself. We don't need to put anything else because we already have set the working directory for that folder, and that's the folder that this exists in. So the file is called demographics.csv, and again, that's all that we need to enter because of that working directory file path. Now, you could have a CSV file that doesn't have a header. If that's the case, you would leave it blank. Since we do have a header, what we need to type in next to this is header equals true, so that it knows that the first row is our header. Now again, highlight the whole piece of code, hit Control Enter. Now, how do we see the data? One way to do it is to highlight the data set name itself and run the entire thing. We could do that, but again, it's going to take a little while, and we have a massive amount of data that's returned. So there are some other ways that we could look and see what our data set looks like without having to scroll through all of this. And one of the first ones is to just do print header, or print head. And what this does is it returns the first 5 rows of your data set so that you can get a general idea of what your data set looks like. So you can see down here, here's all of our different fields. We've got marital status, has children, number of children, so on. A lot of different columns here. So this gives you a good general idea of what it looks like. But there are some more functions that we could get more specific. One of them is dim, which shows you what the dimensions are of your data set. So how many columns do you have and how many rows do you have? If you run this, you can see that we have 19 fields here and a total of 74,000 rows. And this is good because, again, it gives you an idea of how big your data set is. One of the next functions is sapply. And what sapply does, when you type the data set and then after this you enter the keyword class, what it's going to do is show you what class of variable each field is. So whether it be numeric, integer, factor, anything like that, categorical. And it's very important to know what class this is because you cannot do any kind of data analysis on certain types of variables. So you really need to know this. The last one is summary. So you type summary, my data 1, and what this does is this gives you a list of all the summary statistics for each variable. So you can see, for example, with city, since this is a categorical, that you have 20,000 of the people are in Boston, 23,000 are in Chicago, and so on. For the other variables, the continuous variables, you could see some really key things as to the min and max values. So in this case, households, your min values are 72, your max is 487, and most importantly, your mean then is 275. So these are great because they really tell you, the range of the values and what your averages look like. This summary function is very important to understanding what your data is. So that's it for right now. We're going to go into a lot more detail of what you can do once you have the data, but this is a good way of understanding what your data sets look like. The one thing that we want to do before we leave and close out is go to Save As. And we'll go to our folder here, our analysis folder, and we'll save this as data import, and we are good to go.